Hello and welcome back to HD Racing, to the Quick Look series, where we endeavor to take a look at every single car from the Forza GT series for multiplayer. And today we're gonna take a look at this car that doesn't really fit that bill, the 2017 Holden VF. This is a V8 Supercar, but in Forza Motorsport it is labeled as a Forza GT car, at least for the multiplayer series. So it will have to compete with all the other GT cars. Can it do that? We're gonna take a look. And first of all, we're gonna do that in this race at Suzuka. And also afterwards, I'm gonna show you again a hot lap at Barcelona, like I now always do for all the cars that we feature here. But let's start with the race. You're gonna see starting in P9, or I think P8 even, and dropping back and then braking a little late for the first corner. That was not the car's fault, that was definitely my fault. And I start this race with such a big blunder that I actually managed to be in dead last. P19 out of 19. So this is gonna be quite difficult to climb my way back to the front. But the weather is quite terrible and a lot of other people are also gonna have trouble, as we're gonna see. And well, let's just see how well we can still do here. And I'm also gonna talk about the car in a little bit, but first let's take a look at the carnage that's still unfolding. There were two people off track and another guy spinning in front of me. An Audi that apparently had some problems overtaking me again, but well, that's to be expected, it's an Audi after all. But there's another guy off track and well, you're gonna see the hairpin is also not very good in these kind of conditions with such a stacked up field. And yeah, you're gonna see here there's already two people off track and more people colliding in front. I was actually kind of clean for the amount of cars that went through there. Corvette in front of me slowing down because he probably saw that incident in front happening. As two people spin off or well, collide a little bit and then go off track. And I managed to kind of overtake those two guys and the Corvette, but he is still on my tail. And well, at least I managed to get through that kind of clean after that start. It was definitely necessary, so I still have any kind of chance to, well, get somewhat of a decent position in the end. But yeah, as you can see here, braking a little bit late for this corner and well, ramming the Audi, and yeah, I tried to slow down a little to let him through. The Corvette also manages to get by at this stage, but well, doesn't really matter all that much. At this point I'm just trying to, well, not cause any stupid incidents at this point, because that would just be like really unnecessary. I'm really not competing for any kind of podium or any good position here, so yeah. The car itself, well, it's not handling very well in these conditions, but as you could see, a lot of other people are also struggling. But I can tell you, I did also a couple of races that were in the dry, so very nice conditions mostly. And again there, the car didn't feel all that great. I don't know if it's in the wet, if it's like worse than other cars, like from what I've seen so far. I think it's a little bit worse, but that might just be my like first impressions here. But I can definitely tell you, even in the dry, this car is really struggling to compete with a lot of the other cars in the Forza GT series. It definitely can compete in one aspect, and that's like the best thing about these V8 Supercars, the Holden being one of three. They have a lot of power and therefore a lot of straight line speed. And that is definitely the best thing about these cars. They can pull ahead on straights very well, and I feel like on tracks like Le Mans, these cars might actually be kind of good and probably are competitive. Depending on how well other cars can do there in terms of acceleration and top speed for these long straights. But on the more handling focused tracks, this is a car, and I feel like also the other ones, but I haven't tried them all that much, so for now I'm just going to talk about the Holden. It's definitely a struggle. The handling kind of feels a little bit like the car doesn't really know what to do when you're putting it under stress and trying to be on the limit. Sometimes, especially when going into more high-speed corners, the car understeers heavily, and then sometimes it can switch very, very quickly into a snap oversteer, where you feel like you're understeering, and at some point, just because there's more power in the higher revs, if you reach the higher revs of a gear, and at some point the power is just too much for the rear wheels to handle, and you start to oversteer, and quite quickly at that. And you need to be really on your toes to be able to catch that. And that's not only happening just when accelerating out of a slow corner, that's happening even at high speeds. And that was really something where I really struggled to be in any way consistent with this car. As this Lambo also having a little bit of trouble, and I managed to overtake into P8, which was quite surprising, I have to say. But, well, there's still people close behind. But, yeah, as I said, the handling definitely feels strange. It's to be expected. This is a car that normally has, well, quite another purpose. It also is normally not this low in power. The developers tried to put these cars into the Forza GT series by basically nerfing them to the point where they are kind of equal in power. They still have a little bit more power than the other GT cars, but they can't really put it to use all that well. Let's say it like that. As I here switch perspectives, because I really wanted to show you what a struggle this was to keep this car under control and how much I actually have to counter steer, because right now I'm just doing a post commentary, so you can't see my steering wheel movements in like I'm doing in real life. So I thought in this race, decided in the middle of it, let's just show you what it's like by switching into this camera perspective. And I think I might do that more often, maybe just switch completely. It kind of depends. You have to let me know if this is something that is helping you out when you're watching these videos. I feel like it would, but definitely let me know. But yeah, you'll be able to see how much I have to correct in a lot of situations, especially when putting the power down. And well, yeah, even like this corner, you can see how much I have to counter steer to just get the car going in a kind of straight line. But yeah, on the straight, the car definitely performs very well, but then you get to the more handling focus sections, and especially the S's here on the Suzuka, I felt like this car was definitely lacking, as I have, I think, a Corvette behind me that well, definitely seemed faster, so I thought there was no point in trying to keep him behind me, especially in this section of the track where going side by side is really not advisable. I was like, let's just let him go. There's no real point. I'm struggling enough as is, so yeah. Another thing that we can talk about is visibility. As you can see in this camera perspective, contrary to the one that I'm normally using, you can see a lot of the mirrors. So both the interior and the side mirror. For me, it's always a little weird to sit on the right side of the car, but well, that's just me. I live in a country where we drive on the right side of the road and sit on the left side, so I'm just way too used to that. And then sometimes even in games I feel like, I don't know, just my brain isn't wired for the car ending basically to my right immediately, and then there still being quite a lot of car left on the left side. But yeah, as I said, that's just me. I think some of you who are living in the UK and other countries where this is normal, you probably have a similar feeling if you're driving the cars that are left-seaters. But yeah, just a side note on that topic. As we are already, as you can see here, in the last lap, and managed to get to P9, or yeah, fall back one place to P9. But for considering what happened in the beginning, I think this was still quite good, and I was able to control the car mostly and didn't have any major incidents after that, so that was kind of good. I can tell you in a lot of the other races I did have incidents, because as I said before, with the handling model of this car being so snappy sometimes that it just goes from heavy understeer into snap oversteer that really makes the car very difficult to drive, in my opinion. Yeah, going across the line here, staying in P9, so I was happy. Well, I wouldn't say happy, but I was content with the result. But yeah, we are now gonna take a look at the Hotlap at Barcelona, and you can also see the car in a dry condition, how it behaves there. Really take note of how I sometimes am in a corner and it feels like the car is understeering, and then the rear tries to get away from me. Sadly for this I didn't remember to go to the perspective where you can see the steering wheel, so sorry for that. You have to live with this for now. So you can't really see my correction movements that I have to make here. But what you definitely were able to see in the beginning, I was ahead of the Audi for the straight. And as I said before, that is a strength of this car, and I think of the V8 Supercars in general. They are fast in a straight line. But in the couple of first corners, I already fall behind, and well, as I said, if you take a close look, you can see how much I'm struggling to keep the car stable. And I felt like that's the apart from just the handling feeling a little bit snappy sometimes, that's the most difficult thing. This car, for me, is very inconsistent. I definitely had a lot of trouble to get a consistent lap time going. You can see here my best lap time at this point was just a 146.5, whereas in the Audi I was doing a low 144. This lap was definitely quite a lot better, but as I've driven quite a lot more laps after this, I wasn't able to replicate that all that often. That is always a sign for me that a car is not really easy to control. If you can't get consistent lap times, which is what you need for a race situation, then a car is not really well suited for racing, in my opinion. And yeah, you can see over the line with a 145.444. Not a bad time. The Lambo was definitely a little bit slower still, but also not a very good time. And as I said, I did quite a lot more laps after this, tried to get a better time going, but I just couldn't. It's definitely possible to get a better time in this, but consistently, in my opinion, definitely not. And yeah, this is basically my conclusion for this car. It is definitely very powerful and can be fun if you like this kind of driving style and this kind of car setup, but for me it is definitely quite a step below most of the other GT cars that I've driven so far. I mean, the Lamborghini wasn't very fast, but that was because of the setup being very, very understeering, and that's something you can fix with tuning. This car, I'm not quite sure you can do all that much with tuning. I mean, you can probably make it a lot more stable and maybe also get rid of some of that understeer, but that might also come at the cost of being harder to control again. So I'm not quite sure you can do all that much for this car, and also maybe the other V8 Supercars as well. But as I said in the beginning, if there is a track which has a lot of straights, like Le Mans, maybe this car is competitive there. So definitely you can take a look at it if you want for these kind of applications, but for general racing I would say it is not that competitive and not that strong, and also not that great to drive. I really hope that you did get something out of this, and like maybe you want to give this car a try, or maybe you already have, and you can tell us in the comments how you felt about it. But yeah, this is it for the look at the Holden. If you haven't subscribed already and you made it this far, please consider doing so. It would really help the channel out and I would massively appreciate it. But yeah, that's it for now, and I've been HG Racing. Thanks a lot for watching.